and where we are in the fight, in the battle. I mean, we just lost 2 seats. Bob and I were talking about, the one in St. Petersburg on the city council and one in Largo, the city council. I mean, locally, we're losing the fight. And I just don't know if we're, how do we overcome that? Where do we go? How do, we talk about it a lot, but we've got to take more action. And it's so important because, I mean, ultimately, and I guess if you only remember, one thing going forward that I think we're in the struggle zone of, is that it's not really an economic crisis that we're in. It's a morals and a virtues crisis. As a society, how do we find ourselves before it's too late? And I think it has to do with electing representatives that have those qualities. How do we, we must be sure that they have those qualities, and for people to step up and run for office. And we've got another opening on the school board coming up. Lou Williams passed away. Whether the governor will appoint someone there or not, I don't know. But I have to thank you, because you guys have put me here. You are the hard workers and the givers, and God bless you for everything you do. I mean, I know how hard you work, but I think we just have to keep pressing harder and get the word out, get more volunteers, keep spreading the name recognition of those that are in the fight with us, and work to make sure that we do everything in our power to elect those that we want to represent us at the highest level, because that's where the power is. It's with you and the people. You decide. But when you empower us as elected officials up there to be in the fight, and then we have to be accountable for the things we must defend, the truth, and stand up when the time comes against the evil that seeks to infuse itself in our laws and in our society. So thank you again for all that you do, and I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas while I have the opportunity. Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody but Brent. I'll take any.
Remember, if you're going to ask a question,
no, nobody else.
Stand up.
Stand up. Florida destination resorts. We're hearing a lot about it. Coming from Europe, maybe down Miami. Heard they want to move into the Tampa Bay area. They're talking about 10% gaming tables, but they're talking about 100,000 or more jobs. Do you have any idea how you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I'm not a betting man.
I know. But 100,000 jobs or more.
No, and I understand that the construction industry is torn a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there was half of them are morally against it, but then they talk about the job prospects. So I don't think it gets settled in this session. We've got a lot to do with the budget and with the reapportionment. I'd like to see them build it without the casinos. I mean, it'd be great. But ultimately, and there is some sense that this is big enough as an issue that it could be put to a vote of the citizens and be decided that way. And I kind of like that idea. I don't want to shirk my responsibility. I'll vote, my conscience. I'm personally against it. I think we have enough gambling in Florida, and I think that we can get by without it. We don't need it here, quite honestly. But if the people of the state decide at that point, then I'm just going to want us to make the best deal we can. I'm always worried. My biggest sweat in this case would be, do we get the best deal for the citizens from the casinos? They're much better at negotiating, and money is power, and they have a lot of money. Don't kid yourselves. And that buys some influence. And for those that may not have the best interest of the state at heart, I'm not saying that's us, but we are the majority party. We have to make sure we get the best if we're going to do this, and that we hold it down. We have to make sure that if it's a Miami thing, it's only a Miami thing. I hesitate to think that this would be the spread of this through the state of Florida. Yes, sir.
Fred Dudley. One of the hardest hit, from what I understand in the newspapers, one of the hardest hit areas in the country with home building and with the economy and jobs is Las Vegas and Nevada. So because we get those casinos in here, isn't a good coverall for everything. It can still happen.
I agree.
I've spoken with Larry about this before. Back in the 60s and the 70s when I was active, we had a good response from the young Republican clubs. What are we doing now about young Republican clubs? I've got a picture at home of the delegation, and I think 80% of them had come up through the YRs. So what's the status on that? Can anybody tell me? What can we do to get it rolling again?
I have just talked with, I just talked with a young man about 3 months ago. Our Republican clubs had, young Republican clubs had been defunct because their leadership, you know, had moved on. And I just talked to a young man about 3 months ago. He's about 30 years old. He's served 6 years in the Air Force. He went to law school. He's a new attorney, just moved to St. Pete, and he's a dynamo. He has, in the 2-month period, he's gotten a club going. He's got the Stetson Republicans. He's reaching out to, you know, the college Republicans all over the county, and he's doing a dynamite job. I think this young man is going to grow his young Republican club. And
What part of the county?
They're meeting in mid-county about Ormington Road. If you have someone that's interested, let me know. I will get his contact information. You know, put these people together. In fact, I was talking with a young man up in that north.
They had a meeting about a month ago, and they had about 25 people.
Yes, and they have another one, but I think it was tonight. I think their meeting was tonight. Yeah. This young man is really a dynamo, and he wants to get this off the ground and moving forward. And I think he's a good candidate for it.
And he has reached out to my office. We're trying to work him in for an appointment to come in and just talk about what we can do to help. So I think we do have some momentum beginning there. Oh, one more. Last question.
Heath Locke, are we doing anything at the state level to do anything about this Occupy movement?
What? Are we doing anything at the state level about the Occupy movement? I know that they are going to present the Speaker of the House with some sort of petition or proclamation at the beginning of the session. At least that's the rumor that we've heard. No, mostly we're ignoring them. I mean, it just the message is somewhat convoluted from the different groups that say they're the ones, depending on, you know, if they're willing to identify themselves or not. But as far as I know, it would for the most part. I mean, they have a right to free speech, and we'll defend that. And if they want to present it in the proper, you know, formal conditions, they can't storm the chamber or any of that nonsense, or occupy the Capitol. That won't be the case. The Sergeant at Arms is very effective, very efficient in our Capitol, so there won't be any nonsense. There won't be any Wisconsin type situation taking place there. Okay, thank you all again very much for having me.
Thank you, Larry. An absolute pleasure. And Larry is running for re-election, and we're not sure which district it's going to be yet. You know, as these lines, redistricting lines change.